We're looking at literally millions of meals that are sitting out here in this parking lot just inside the border fence of Gaza that could be feeding the people inside Gaza, but the United Nations doesn't want to distribute it because that would mean having to work together with the IDF to get the job done. And it makes you wonder if that means the United Nations would rather bash Israel than feed the hungry. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And I am pretty excited because I actually got to go inside Gaza today. It's only taken like 650 days or something to get into Gaza. And I started doing this in 2003. And I've been to every war. I've had more combat experience as a journalist than I ever did in the Rangers. And, maybe if the word gets out, Chuck Holton is coming in, that Hamas will be like, okay, we give up. Okay, we will lay down our arms. We're done. What the IDF did is they called basically last night and were like, you have a, you know, opportunity to go into Gaza tomorrow if you can fill out all these forms and get it back to us by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which was at that point about 7 hours ago. And I was like, and so I quick filled out all those forms and sent them all the pictures of my passport and my press card and everything, and and sent it into them. And they were kind enough to let me squeak in under the door, so to speak. So we showed up. I had to drive all the way to the Egyptian border, which is where the Kerem Shalom crossing is into Gaza. And that's it's normally about a 2 hour drive from Jerusalem. So I said, yeah, I just have a feeling I'm going to want to stop along the way and get something to drink or something. I'm going to leave like an hour early. So it's a good thing I did because I got halfway down there and there was like a car with six people in it that flipped down the freeway, boom, 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 and just shut the whole freeway down. Six Israelis were badly injured in that wreck, and it just completely closed the freeway. So we just put it in park, and I just sat there and went like, "Oh man, you got to be kidding me!" Like it was way up there, and nobody's moving at all. So I thought, well, Lord, maybe there's a reason you don't want me to go to Gaza. Maybe I should just pray about it. So I did, and I texted the CBN staff here at the office in Jerusalem and said, "Would you guys pray that I could get out of this traffic jam so I can make it to Gaza?" And they did, and literally within 2 minutes, the traffic started moving. I was watching the one girl that was kind of like running the show. She's got her little horn rimmed glasses on and her military helmet and body armor, and she's just running the show. Man, you over here, no, stop, everybody come back here and just gather around, and all this. And I was like, wow. And then she's talking to different journalists who are coming up, and there's a bunch from all over the world. And I heard her speaking like Hebrew, English, French, and Russian all within about 10 minutes. So I was like, how many languages do you speak? And she was like, six. I was like, you're in the right job for sure. So that video that I just showed you of me walking and talking in the Kerem Shalom storage facility, we would call it an LSA in the military, logistical support activity. I had to get that reviewed by military sensors to make sure there wasn't anything in the background that could cause a problem, because journalists don't know. A lot of journalists, they have no idea about operational security. They don't understand that if you film while we're going through a checkpoint and you broadcast that, you just gave Hamas an inside look at how that checkpoint runs. Now, the IDF has a rule that unless specifically authorized, you can't show the face of any IDF soldier at all. They all have to be uh, blurred out. And the reason for that is not so much because they're worried about Hamas infiltrating into Tel Aviv and finding that guy or whatever. They're worried about this stuff that's happening around Europe and Greece and places like that, where they literally have had uh, IDF soldiers that were detained and arrested simply because they belong to the IDF. We got to see a bunch of Palestinians because the whole place in there is run by Palestinians. It's inside Gaza. It's on the Palestinian side of the fence, and these workers that load and unload the trucks and stuff, they're the same guys who've been working there for years. And you talk about a primo job for a Palestinian. Uh, they get to be in the place where all the food comes in, so they're eating well. So take a look. Uh, here's some tomatoes, and then look, it just goes on and on and on. There's just pallets after pallets after pallets of food out there. Now it's 100 degrees, so this food needs to get distributed quick, or it's going to get bad. Okay, and what they told us was that 950 truckloads. I mean, they could easily get that many truckloads out of there in 1 or 2 days and get that to people. Now, one truckload is 50,000 meals. So 950 truckloads is 47,500,000 meals. So that would be, if you give people 3 meals a day, it'd be a week's worth of food. Suffice it to say that for the last week or two, the UN and the World Food Program and the World Central Kitchen and all those organizations, other than GHF, have been refusing to take food into Gaza. The United Nations has put it out. Like, we're not going to work with the IDF because that makes us biased. Oh, so it's okay for you to work with Hamas? That doesn't make you biased? I mean, look, Hamas has been pushing this narrative very, very hard that, okay, everybody put out the word that people are starving to death in Gaza. All the media outlets picked that up from the Gaza Health Ministry and reported it like it's gospel. The pundits, the commentators, the hosts of every evening news show, everybody is talking about hunger in Gaza. But it's patently obvious what the UN is doing. The UN is weaponizing the hunger of the Gazan people against Israel. The UN is intentionally allowing people in Gaza to go hungry in order to hurt Israel, in order to give Hamas ammunition in the information battle space. It is patently obvious to me. I'm going there and seeing it with my own eyes. The United Nations would really like to bash Israel much more than they would like to feed Gaza. And they have made that very clear. And now Israel is calling their bluff, and rightly so. Israel is going full court press on their own to try to get the word out about how this is working, about what it is actually like inside Gaza.
We are acting here according to international law, providing humanitarian aid according to international law, and those trying to sabotage the humanitarian efforts are Hamas and its people, who are spinning this to prevent our forces from dismantling infrastructures that could harm us and our citizens.
Standing here a few hundred meters away from an aid distribution site that is run by the American company, the GHF. The idea is to give aid directly to the Gazan civilians and bypass Hamas's hands. Hamas, since the beginning of the war, has been doing everything they can to loot aid. They have been doing everything they can to get the aid and sell it at a higher price for Gazan civilians, prevent it from the Gazan civilians, and maintain their terror machine, their war machine, while doing so. So this is a new solution that brings aid directly to the people of Gaza. And if you can zoom in over there, you can kind of see thousands of people walking back peacefully. They have bags of aid on their shoulders, bags of food on their shoulders. I have been here for about half an hour. This place is run by an American company that also has private security within the complex, a closed off area. and the people have been coming more and more, which tells you very simply they feel safe. I believe this is an endeavor that will have even more points and more spots for Gaza civilians, making it more comfortable and more effective.
Joe Carr says, my understanding is the NGOs aren't permitted in the red zone. So how is it dangerous to distribute? No, the NGOs are permitted into uh, the distribution centers that are set up. There's 40 of them set up all across Gaza, and they are certainly allowed in there. IDF is not stopping them, but the NGOs themselves have said, well, it's too dangerous for us to go in there, so we're not going to go. UN says, no, we're not going to do that because that makes us bias. I don't know how that makes them bias. It's a political stunt on the part of Hamas and on the part of the United Nations. But I repeat myself, talking to the soldiers in Gaza, what they universally said, UN and Hamas are one and the same as far as we're concerned. There's no daylight between them. Every time a civilian dies or is purported to have died, that is like another cut on Israel. That's making Israel bleed just a little bit more. For whatever misery happens in Gaza, Hamas wins.